There's a pattern that connects the world's sharpest minds, from elite cybersecurity experts to legendary military commanders. They all share one obsession: finding what others refuse to see. It's not about being smarter, it's about looking where nobody else does. Today, you're going to learn the one rule that separates people who react from people who dominate. Stick around until the end, because what you're about to discover will completely change how you make decisions. You're going to be surprised. Why? The best decision makers trust what others ignore. Ever notice how the most successful people seem to have a sixth sense? Like they know something's off before anyone else catches it. That's not magic. That's trained instinct. Think about this. When an elite cybersecurity team hunts a threat, they don't chase the obvious breach. They look for the anomaly that doesn't belong. That single login at AM, that data packet moving slower than it should, the thing everyone else scrolled past because it seemed insignificant. Here's what nobody tells you about high performance. It's not about seeing more. It's about seeing differently. Most people skim the surface and call it research. Real players dig until they find the foundation. Take corporate espionage investigators. When they're hired to find a leak, they don't start with the obvious suspect. They start with what's underneath. Who has access they shouldn't? What patterns changed 6 months ago that nobody documented? Which relationship shifted without explanation? The invisible always controls the visible, always has. Ancient battlefield strategists didn't win because they had superior weapons. They won because they studied what their enemies ignored. The fatigue in enemy formations. The supply routes nobody thought to protect. The weather patterns that would turn mud into an ally. Bring this into your world right now. How many times have you hired someone because their resume was impressive, but you ignored that weird vibe in the interview? How many partnerships did you enter because the numbers looked good, but you dismissed that hesitation in their voice? Here's the truth. Your gut feeling isn't random. It's your brain processing thousands of microsignals that your conscious mind filters out. High performers train themselves to listen to that processing instead of override it. A championship poker player doesn't just play the cards. They play the breathing pattern across the table, the millisecond delay before a bet, the finger tap that happens when someone's bluffing. All invisible, all decisive. In your daily life, this translates to reading rooms before speaking, noticing who avoids eye contact when certain topics arise, catching the energy shift when you mention a specific name. These invisible signals carry more truth than any spreadsheet. Right now, pick one important situation in your life: a project, a relationship, a pending decision. Ask yourself, what am I not seeing here? What's beneath the obvious? Write down 3 things you'd normally ignore. That's your starting point. The invisible isn't mystical, it's measurable. You just need to stop operating on autopilot and actually look. Because while everyone's competing on the visible board, the real players already mapped the game underneath. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Sometimes we don't miss the invisible by accident. Sometimes we choose not to see it. And that changes everything. Stay with me. How fear of the truth keeps most people locked in mediocrity. Note: reordering parts as requested. Let me hit you with something brutal. Most people don't fail because they lack information. They fail because they refuse to acknowledge what they already know. Here's a perfect example. In the early 2000s, multiple engineers at a major space agency flagged concerns about a specific component. The data was there, the risk was documented, but leadership chose not to look deeper because addressing it meant delaying a high-profile launch. 7 people died because the invisible was too inconvenient to acknowledge. This isn't about blame, it's about understanding human nature. We avoid looking beneath the surface when we suspect we won't like what we find, and that avoidance kills momentum, destroys relationships, and torpedoes careers. You do this too. We all do. You have that employee who's been disengaged for months. You see the signs: the shorter emails, the missed enthusiasm, the subtle withdrawal. But you don't dig because you know what you'll find: a bigger problem that requires difficult conversations, or that side business you keep postponing. You tell yourself it's about time, but the invisible truth is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discovering you're not as capable as you hoped. So you stay comfortable and call it being strategic. Elite negotiators build entire careers on this principle. They know the deal never breaks on what's discussed. It breaks on what's unspoken. The ego that can't be challenged. The insecurity about appearing weak. The pressure from a partner who isn't in the room. A hostage negotiator doesn't focus on demands. They focus on the why. Beneath the demands, what does this person actually need? Control? Validation? An escape route? When you uncover the invisible, you unlock solutions nobody else saw. This applies to every arena of high performance. A world-class surgeon doesn't just practice the visible procedure. They study the invisible factors, patient psychology, team dynamics, the stress patterns that cause mistakes. The surgery is just the surface. Identify one situation you've been avoiding, something that makes you uncomfortable when you think about it. Now ask the hard question. What am I refusing to see here? Don't accept your first answer. Go deeper, because the truth is always one layer below comfort. The gap between average and exceptional is courage. The courage to look at what hurts, what's awkward, what everyone else sweeps under the rug and hopes disappears. So you're probably thinking, oh, okay, get it. But how do I actually develop this vision? Good question. There's a specific technique the best investigators use, and it's going to transform your decision making. Keep watching. What if one simple protocol could reveal everything you've been missing? Here's the good news. The skill is trainable. The bad news, it requires something our generation hates: silence and patience. The world's best investigators, the ones who crack impossible cases, all share one practice. They pause. In the middle of chaos, pressure, and the desperate need for answers, they stop and observe. Not passively, actively and intentionally. Let me break down the difference. Passive observation is autopilot. You see but don't register. Active observation is when you consciously choose to notice what your brain is programmed to filter out. Your brain is an efficiency machine. It filters 99% of incoming information, or you go insane. The problem? In that automatic filtering, it discards exactly what would give you strategic advantage. So here's the technique. Before any major decision, pause for 60 seconds and ask 3 questions. First, what am I assuming to be true without questioning? Every decision starts with premises. Most of them are wrong or outdated. Challenge them. Second, what are the people involved not saying? This isn't about paranoia. It's about understanding that human communication is 80% nonverbal and contextual. What's between the lines? Third, if I were attacking the situation, what weakness would I exploit? This forces you to see through the eyes of the problem, not just the solution. Sounds basic? It is. But how often do you actually do this? Most people make decisions on impulse, in a rush, at surface level, then wonder why results are mediocre. A tech founder I studied has a brutal rule. Before approving any strategy, 3 people must try to destroy the idea, not critique it. Destroy it. Find the invisible flaw that could collapse everything. Only then does he proceed. Another example, championship athletes don't just train the visible movement. They train the breathing nobody sees, the mental visualization before the body moves, the recovery protocols that happen in the silence of night. Practical action. For the next 24 hours, whenever someone tells you something important, don't respond immediately. Take a breath and ask internally, what are they really saying? What aren't they telling me? You'll be shocked at how much you were missing. High performance isn't about speed. It's about direction, and you only find the right direction when you see the complete map, including the part buried underground. If this resonates, drop "I see deeper" in the comments. Tell me, which area of your life needs this kind of attention right now? And if this video is shifting your perspective, smash that like button and subscribe. There's plenty more performance archaeology coming your way. Closing hook. But wait. There's one final point that might sound contradictory, but it's critical, because there's a moment when looking too hard at the invisible can paralyze you. And I need to show you where that line is. How the balance between seeing everything and acting fast determines who wins. Hook. Here's the contradiction nobody discusses. If you become obsessed with finding the invisible, you never act. And action matters just as much as perception. History's greatest strategists weren't just observers. They were rapid decision makers. They knew when to stop analyzing and start executing. Because in the real world, perfect information doesn't exist, and whoever waits for it loses the window of opportunity. A Prussian military reformer in the 19th century created a philosophy that revolutionized modern warfare. Be quick, be decisive, be imperfect. He understood that 70% information at 100% speed beats 100% information at 50% speed every single time. So how do you balance it? How do you look for the invisible without falling into analysis paralysis? The answer is systems. The best decision makers don't rely on inspiration or feeling. They have protocols, quick checks. They run automatically before acting. Example: a fighter pilot has seconds to decide, but before each mission, they spend hours studying the invisible. Enemy behavior patterns, weather variables, escape routes. When they're in the air, they don't think. They react based on what they already mapped. You can do the same in your life. Dedicate time to map the invisible in your projects, relationships, and goals. But when it's time to execute, trust what you've seen and act with conviction. Because here's the brutal truth: seeing the invisible gives you advantage, but acting despite uncertainty gives you victory. Both need to work together. A billionaire entrepreneur who revolutionized digital payments had a rule: every major decision got 10 minutes of deep analysis. Not 9, not 11, 10. In that time, he excavated the invisible. After that, he decided and never looked back. The world doesn't reward who sees the most. It rewards who sees better and acts faster. Define your protocol. Before any important decision, how much time will you dedicate to examining the invisible? 5 minutes? 10? An hour? Choose it. Respect it. Then act without fear. High performance is having a reliable process, not a perfect answer. At the end of the day, the instinct rule is simple: always look beneath. Always question the obvious. Always seek what's hidden. But when you have enough information, have the courage to act. If you made it this far, you're part of the 1% who actually wants to elevate the game. Drop "I see" and "I act" in the comments. Tell me, what decision have you been postponing because you're afraid you don't have all the answers? If this content added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs this mindset shift. See you on the next expedition.